the third bit then is sort of what a lot of people would think about what marketing is going years back, isn't it? Sort of the
Yeah.
visual side of it, and what some sort of old school companies and sort of think of marketing now, which is kind of making things look nice. But visuals plays an important part too. Then,
Yeah. Yeah, it does without a doubt. And this is again kind of a sad trap that marketers fall into because you have this. I think every marketer kind of operates in the back of our minds like, oh, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to make things too difficult for people to understand. I need to simplify, 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 simplify. And the brain actually needs a little bit of complexity to remember, to encode a memory. So if you oversimplify your visuals, if you just have kind of a pie chart and that's all you've got, then the brain actually tends to gloss over that. So adding a little complexity to your visuals and a little bit of contrast is really key, like giving the brain something to compare on a slide, the before and the after, something like that, actually helps the brain remember better. Simply using, like kind of the smart art that comes with Microsoft can actually oversimplify your content to the extent to your visuals to the extent that they become unmemorable because they look just like everybody else's. And another thing that marketers tend to shy away from is being a little bit too out there. I mean, I can't even count the number of brand organizations at my clients that I've had to go up against to try to like get some of these principles through. But dropping, like if you're creating a PowerPoint presentation, for example, dropping a completely unexpected slide at key points within the presentation, like right before your 10% message, really perks the brain up and gets the brain to realize, whoa, I thought I was just watching an ordinary average PowerPoint presentation, but there's something else that's weird that's going on here. I better pay attention. That primes the brain for what's coming next, which should be your 10% message. So using unexpected visuals, representing concepts or words in different ways than just your traditional charts, and steering clear of stock images that are cliches. Like I think every marketer has in their deck that image of the worried businessman, the guy with the gray hair who's bent over his desk with his head in his hands, worrying about all the problems ahead of him. Like everybody's got that. And whenever I use that example in a presentation, marketers always laugh because they're like, it's in my bag, right? But it's just using unexpected visuals, using non-cliche visuals, using visuals in places where you wouldn't expect to see them, and then following some universal design principles, which means consistent shapes, consistent colors, consistent line weights, the way that you arrange things on a slide, for example, or what you reveal and the order in which you reveal it draws focus and attention to what you want your buyers to look at first, and then you augment it and you add that on. So a real quick trick that marketers can use is, kind of the slow unveiling of a visual or an idea or of a concept so that the brain has time to look at it, encode it, remember it, absorb it before you add the next piece versus just giving them everything and expecting them to be able to sort through all that.
no, that's interesting. And actually, the
Yeah.
first bit that you talked about there, I've sort of come across that sort of called pattern interrupt. And
Yep.
actually, I've come across that more on sort of YouTube, where you're trying to keep people, watching your video for a short period of time, and you are actually trying to change things around a little bit,
Yep.
which is exactly that. You're kind of jolting them into keeping watching it. And actually, I'm going to sound a little bit old now, but with my kids, I like watching, some of the old films, and you're like, this is an amazing film, and you watch it, and it's just like really slow compared to the fast sort of films that they put on now, where
Yep.
literally they're trying to keep the attention of the audience for that whole 2 hours. So
Yep.
that really makes a lot of sense.
We have a concept that we talk about in our training we call it the hammock. And it's a really simple principle, but it's people remember 100% of what you tell them or 70% of what you tell them at the beginning of a message, about 20% of what you tell them in the middle, and then 100% of what you say at the end. And if you think about your typical corporate PowerPoint presentation, we always tell people we can predict the first 5 slides of every standard company presentation, right? Like you have the title slide, then you have your agenda slide, then you have the about us slide, and then you have the history of your company slide, and then you have the logo slide. With like, you can just feel it coming at you like a slow moving freight train. And by that time, by the time you get through those 5 slides, that's when you got 70% of your buyer's attention. They've seen it all before, they tune out. And so when you finally get into the meat of the presentation, the stuff that they should care about, and they're down in that 20% hammock portion of it. So you have to find ways to spike their attention all the way through that presentation. You do that by opening hot with something that is unexpected and closing with something hot and unexpected, and then jarring them throughout that presentation.